Most of us remember math as a source of mild dread, a rigid subject filled with formulas to memorize. We usually see it as a cold academic tool meant for balancing a checkbook or passing a stressful test. But 3,000 years ago, in ancient India, the perspective was entirely different. In this world, mathematics functioned as a sacred technology. These ancient builders viewed geometry as a bridge, a highly specific language designed to communicate directly with the universe. Everything began with the concept of Rita. This was the belief in a dynamic, perfect cosmic order, the invisible rhythm that guides the changing seasons and the path of the stars. Maintaining that cosmic harmony required active human participation through the yajna, a sacred fire ritual. As you can see from the structured base of this fire, these ceremonies took place on very specific physical platforms. These altars were more than just platforms. They had to be earthly mirrors of the heavens. Their shapes and dimensions were governed by strict laws, intended to capture the cycles of the sun and moon. If an altar was off by even a few inches, the ritual was believed to be invalid. This intense pressure for absolute physical perfection is what forced the birth of Indian mathematics. The architects recorded their methods in the Śulba Sūtras, or the rules of the court. They didn't use paper or desks. They performed advanced geometry in the dirt, using only wooden pegs and taut, stretched ropes. The rituals often required a square altar to be reshaped into a circle. The challenge was making sure the new shape contained exactly the same amount of surface area as the original. In their quest to solve these area puzzles, they realized that a square built along the diagonal line of a rectangle has an area equal to the squares of the other two sides combined. This was the Pythagorean theorem, used practically centuries before the Greeks. This wasn't abstract theory. It was a rigorous, step-by-step science created through the physical labor of building a sacred space. The ultimate test of this geometry was the Shayanachiti, a massive fire altar shaped like a falcon with its wings spread wide in mid-flight. This bird altar came with staggering constraints. It had to be built in exactly 5 layers. It had to use precisely 1,000 bricks. And no vertical seams between bricks were allowed to line up from one layer to the next. To form the curved sweep of the wings without breaking the area rules, architects had to manufacture specialized bricks, cutting them into exact halves, quarters, and unique angles to lock together like a perfect puzzle. They were solving complex equations using nothing but baked clay. For them, monumental architecture was a physical medium for mathematical proof. Why was an error of just a few inches such a threat? It traces back to the concept of Purnam, which describes a state of total completeness or infinity. A brick altar is a finite, limited object, but its purpose was to represent the infinite, unchanging vastness of the divine. Geometry acted as a spiritual mechanism, a gear that allowed the finite human mind to grasp the vastness of the cosmos. Eventually, the math used for these temporary fire altars became the permanent grid for massive stone temples. The same rules for orientation and symmetry are still etched into these structures today. These ancient priests realized that the geometry they used to align an altar with the sun also predicted the movement of the stars and the return of the seasons. This connection shows us that math acts as a map for the silent, hidden patterns that exist in the world around us. Today, whether we are writing computer code or engineering a bridge, we are still using this same universal logic to pull order out of chaos. The rigorous algorithms of ancient India were forged entirely in the fires of devotion. Try to keep that in mind the next time you see a complex number or a geometric shape. Look at it the way those ancient builders did. Math is a footprint of the divine, our most beautiful reflection of a perfectly ordered universe.